politics, entertainment, and more. Welcome to The Informant. Independent talk, pursuing truth, informing everyone. Now, here is The Informant, Eric Thompson.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to The Informant. Thank you again for joining me here on Mojo50.com, over on iHeartRadio and Spreaker. For those of you watching the video, welcome to The Informant. This is a radio broadcast that I do Monday through Friday over on Mojo50.com, 11 o'clock Pacific time. This is just the first part of the show. That way, if you want to kind of get a feel for, what kind of articles am I referencing, videos and stuff, you can see what I'm doing. So welcome. But this is a radio show that I do because I want to make sure that we the people continue to fight for freedom, because that's what this is all about. Today we're going to go over this fiasco that took place in Washington, D.C. And what fiasco is that, you might ask? Well, Robert Mueller III, former special counsel, Democrats' only hope to be able to try to possibly, maybe in dreamland, take out the President of the United States. He finally came to D.C. today to testify in front of the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committees. So he was invited, would have been compelled by subpoena, to come in and say, well, we know you gave us a 448-page report, and we know that you said that you're not going you did not desire to testify again when you were closing up the special counsel office, and you did your 8-minute speech that you read because you didn't really even seem to know what was in that speech, special counsel. But you had said some things in the report that you are the author of, supposedly. And in that 8-minute report, you kind of implied that if it wasn't for the Office of Legal Counsel, that you would have possibly brought charges against the president. Then let's have you come in, even though you're not going to say anything outside of what's written, and we're going to see if you can fill in some blanks for the American people. The Republicans are like, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, we haven't had a chance to even ask the special counsel any questions about what was in the report, some of the omissions, some of the exaggerations, some of the deletions, some of the lies, some of the exculpatory information that was removed that would explain other parts that seemed confusing. So bring it on. But the thing is, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, I believe, actually didn't write the report. I think Andrew Weissman and his team wrote the report. Mueller was kind of over the department, signed off on it, sent it over to A.G. Barr. But here's the problem, is that when the report was sent over to A.G. Barr, then A.G. Barr looked at it and said, hey, Robert, we're friends. How come you didn't complete part 2 of the report? You're not giving me a conclusion on if you would indict or if you would charge the president with trying to obstruct the investigation. And then A.G. Barr comes out and says, fine. Press conference based off of what I've been given, and since the special counsel decided not to make a decision. After speaking with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, we don't see any justification for bringing charges or even indicting the president. So even though the Office of Legal Counsel said you can't, we don't even see anything there anyway. So end of case. Well, Andrew Weissman, I believe, and people from the office, Robert Mueller's office, sent a letter which was leaked to the media, which was supposed to have been private. This is from Robert Mueller's office, and you did not properly or adequately explain our findings. So A.G. Barr, speaking to his friend, hey, Mueller, you have any problems with my conclusion? Answer, no. Well, let me ask you a question, Robert, with other people in the room. Did the Office of Legal Counsel's opinion that you cannot indict or charge a sitting president because it would affect the country negatively, as the executive branch would be tied up in litigation, did that come into your consideration when you did not come up with the conclusion on the obstruction question? 3 times, according to Attorney General Barr, Robert Mueller said no. So, why would Robert Mueller say in his 8-minute speech that we didn't really look into it because we couldn't indict if we wanted to? And then he told Attorney General Barr it didn't really matter. But in the report it said it did, along with lies and omissions and other thing. So, Robert Mueller, it's showtime. And how did he do? How did this pillar of jurisprudence, how did this stellar man, how did he do in front of these committees? Well, let's see what the findings were. Here we go. And I think it's pretty shocking, to be honest with you. But let's let the report speak for themselves, or the articles. First one, Daily Wire. Very painful. Uh-oh. Democrats' left-wing media implode over disastrous Mueller hearing. From Ryan Saavedra. Prominent Democrats and members of the left-wing media melted down on Wednesday in response to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's bumbling hearing in front of the House Judiciary Committee. As the hearing unfolded, numerous critics across the political spectrum criticized Mueller's seemingly dull mental dexterity. That's not when you want to be dull when you're in front of the committee on national television, but seemingly dull mental dexterity and his inability to defend his work. Just like I said, I do not believe it was his work. It was Andrew Weissman and the crew of 17 other people, prosecutors that really hate President Trump. David Axelrod, a former senior advisor to President Trump, tweeted, quote, "This is very, very painful." Unquote. Quote, new tweet. "This is delicate to say, but Mueller, who I deeply respect, has not publicly testified before Congress in at least 6 years," unquote. Axelrod added, quote, "and he does not appear as sharp as he was then, and it helps explain why Mueller wanted his aide nearby," unquote. The thing about it is this. You really don't bring in anybody with you when you're testifying. So the Congress wanted to hear from Mueller directly. Mueller brought in his deputy or his lead aide to help answer questions he may not be able to, especially on the obstruction side. Axelrod is basically pointing out, explains why he brought help. He didn't really seem to have command of the content, was kind of bumbling around, and he looked like that he could use the help. Not a good situation. So let's continue here. Here's some more of the far left in response to how it went today. And it did not go at all like the left wanted. This is from a new tweet from leftist Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe. Quote, "Much as I hate to say it, this morning's hearings was a disaster. Far from breathing life into his damning report, the tired Robert Mueller sucked the life out of it. The effort to save democracy and the rule of law from this lawless president has been set back, not advanced," unquote. Here's a little video, and you guys will be able to hear it on the radio from MSNBC's Jeremy Bash, as he complained also about Mueller sucking the life out of his report.
I have to say that far from breathing life into the report, he kind of sucked the life out of the report. I thought he was boring. I thought in some cases he was sort of evasive. He didn't want to explain or expand on his rationale. He seemed lost at times. He was kind of flipping through the report, trying to find passages that members of Congress were reading to him. I thought it slowed things down, and I thought it really was a very ineffective defense of his own work. I don't think, by the way, he had to go after anybody or seem partisan or seem like he was doing anything more than a professional prosecutor would do, which was clearly and succinctly explain the evidence, explain the law, and show some passion, show some sense that the president's conduct here was concerning, that it violated some sense of what the Constitution says a president should do. So I fear that this hearing set back efforts to hold the president accountable for what the president did, and also hold ultimately Russia accountable for what they did.
And why was he really frustrated? Because where was the passion? Mueller, how come you weren't angry like the rest of us? You're supposed to be angry right now. You're supposed to punish Russia, punish this president, lawlessness, and how come you just seem so lethargic? And for those of us that were so built up that this was the moment, you've kind of sucked the life out of the report. You've removed this sting because you don't act like President Trump did anything wrong. It's a big letdown for the left. But he wasn't the only one. Let's look at some more leftists that had some things to say about this. Cook political reporter, national editor, Amy Walter tweeted, "We're only 30 minutes into this thing, but I don't think it's going the way the Democrats were hoping it would go." And what do you think? What were the Democrats hoping? Oh, that Mueller would be sharp as a tack. That he would be able to say, yeah, over on page 130, no problem. Well, yeah, well, you can see this. And actually, special counsel, our hands were tied. If we would have been able to indict without that Office of Legal Counsel, we would have. But, there's some things there. All right, we're at the station break already. Thank you for listening to The Informant here on Mojo50.com. Mojo50.com, 24-hour libertarian talk and radio. Please share with your friends and family. Click on the silver microphone on the Mojo50.com. You can hear all my shows. And I'm so glad you're listening in on the network. So the left basically was looking for, we need anger. We needed him to show that the problem is that the Russians need to get it, and President Trump needs to get it, and we just didn't get that out of the performance today. Here's another article. Another story. Left-leaning journalist Michael Tracy tweeted, quote, "Democrats didn't even attempt to extract any new information from Mueller. Instead, they tried to goad him into dramatizing parts of the report, which he has repeatedly declined to do. It was a total embarrassment." Now, as I said when I started the show here, Robert Mueller told them what he was going to do. They just didn't listen. But Robert Mueller wasn't cognitive enough or aware enough to be able to reference his report. They didn't see that coming. And nobody on the left or Robert Mueller's team saw what the right or the conservatives were going to do in questioning him as they exposed all of the deception inside the report. Now, here is another article from Big League Politics, and they kind of question if Mueller wrote the report. So, bigleaguepolitics.com. Robert Mueller admits unprecedented nature of the investigation. while being ignorant of his report's own contents. According to Shane Trejo, it seems like Mueller did not even write his own report. Special FBI counsel Robert Mueller, who has been painted as a crusader for justice by the Democratic Party and the fake news media, could not even answer basic questions about the contents of his own report during a congressional hearing today. While getting questioned by Representative Jim Jordan, Representative Ohio, and the House Judiciary Committee, Mueller displayed ignorance of the details of his report. And this is how it went down.
Diplomat tells Papadopoulos Russians have dirt. Papadopoulos tells a diplomat Russians have dirt on Clinton. Diplomat tells the FBI. What I'm wondering is, who told Papadopoulos? How'd he find out?
I can't get into the evidentiary file.
Yes, you can, because you wrote about it. You gave us the answer. Page 192 of the report, you tell us who told him. Joseph Mifsud. Joseph Mifsud's the guy who told Papadopoulos. The mysterious professor who lives in Rome and London, works at teaching in 2 different universities. This is the guy who told Papadopoulos. He's the guy who starts it all. And when the FBI interviews him, he lies 3 times, and yet you don't charge him with a crime.
Don't charge him with a crime, but they go on. He asks, later on they ask, well, how come you went after Roger Stone and somebody leaked to CNN when they were going to be raiding his home? How come Paul Manafort charges General Flynn, but not this guy Mifsud, who basically was told that he was supposed to meet with this Papadopoulos guy. Now, Papadopoulos had been set up because there was a Stephen Halford that invited him over to speak over in London, and he told Papadopoulos about the Russians having dirt. So Papadopoulos is then telling the FBI, well, did you know that the Russians have the Clinton emails? And Jordan's like, well, who told Papadopoulos? Well, it was this Joseph Mifsud. So you have Stephen Halfer, who got him over there. You got Joseph Mifsud, who met with him, that said, did you know that Russians hacked Hillary's server and her campaign manager, John Podesta? Did you know that? So Papadopoulos is like, hey, FBI, I got some information for you that the Russians have Clinton emails. And then Papadopoulos ends up getting in trouble. Well, then when they went back to talk to Joseph Mifsud, he lied 3 times about that encounter, but he didn't go to jail. No charges. But it says here, Mueller did not fare much better when receiving questions from another lawmaker. Representative John Ratcliffe, Republican Texas, made Mueller look foolish when grilling him about the unprecedented nature of his investigation on President Trump's potential collusion. Listen to this. Listen closely, because there's no such thing as not being able to exonerate somebody when you're trying to determine if you bring charges because you think they're guilty. If not, then they're simply innocent. So this is how this went down.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in explaining that special counsel did not make what you called a traditional prosecution or declination decision, the report on the bottom of page 2 of volume 2 reads as follows. The evidence we obtained about the president's actions and intent presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Now, I read that correctly?
Yes.
All right. Now, your report, and today you said at all times the special counsel team operated under, was guided by, and followed Justice Department policies and principles. So, which DOJ policy or principle sets forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which DOJ policy or principle set forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined? Where does that language come from, Director? Where is the DOJ policy that says that? Let me make it easier.
Go ahead.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique situation.
Okay, well, you can't. Time is short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist. The special counsel's job, nowhere does it say that you were to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or that the special counsel report should determine whether or not to exonerate him. It's not in any of the documents. It's not in your appointment order. It's not in the special counsel regulations. It's not in the OLC opinions. It's not in the Justice Manual. And it's not in the principles of federal prosecution. Nowhere do those words appear together because respectfully, Director, it was not the special counsel's job to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or to exonerate him, because the bedrock principle of our justice system is a presumption of innocence. It exists for everyone. Everyone is entitled to it, including sitting presidents.
Including sitting presidents. So the president should have been assumed innocent, but he wasn't, obviously, because the way Andrew Weissman and the guys put that report together, well, even though we were not able to bring charges, we also were not able to exonerate the president. That's not how it works, and that's what was exposed by the Republicans in those two cases, with Jordan showing that Papadopoulos was set up, and yet the person that gave him the information did not face any charges, even though Miss Food lied to the Congress, till he lied to the FBI. So they went over how Joseph Mifsud can lie to the FBI and no charges are brought, but other people in the Trump campaign and General Flynn did have charges brought for something that even Peter Strzok and them said, we don't think that he lied that he did, he may have misspoke, but we don't really have anything on him. But they brought charges anyway. They bankrupt him. He ended up agreeing to something he didn't do, and now he may withdraw that decision. But it just shows the hypocrisy here. Another article for Big League Politics: Mueller did not even know which president appointed him. Now, did you guys hear about this? Would you know what president gave you, nominated you for your first position in the government? Like a high position. Robert Mueller, because this was 30 years ago, so things, we forget things, but when asked by a Democrat, we'll get to the story here in a second, but the Democrat is trying to say, the Republicans are kind of blowing over your great experience and how you've served our country. So what president which one was nominated you to the Attorney General or the State Attorney of Massachusetts, your first position? What president did that? He couldn't answer that. You think the Democrats should have known that? Well, let's go ahead and I'll show you how this all went down. All right. Not good. Sad. So Mueller didn't know which president appointed him, and let's find out how that went. Senator Greg Stanton, Democrat, Arizona, attempted to give Mueller an opportunity to stress his long service to the United States during his congressional testimony. Mueller revealed that his memory is so poor that he does not even remember which president appointed him to one of the highest offices he held. Quote, "Hey, Director Mueller," this is Greg Stanton, Democrat, Arizona, "I'm disappointed that we're out of time." Wow, that was a fast half hour. Well, hey, if you want to hear the rest of this and the rest of the show, head over to mojo50.com tonight at 11 o'clock Pacific. Thank you so much for watching, listening in. For those of you on radio, don't go anywhere. Second part's coming up.